Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Goldstein from Scottsdale, Arizona. Welcome to my video. Today I'm going to talk about digital asset management using a great product, Adobe Photoshop Lightroom 4. This course assumes you know how to make satisfactory images with your digital camera. I'll review some camera settings that I think are important for us to be on the same page with. However, this is not a course on digital photography. This course is to show you how a professional digital asset management system works and help you get your system up and running. You'll also learn how to set up a basic digital workflow and what's possible with Adobe Photoshop Lightroom 4. I won't go into a lot of the details of the software, which is what I do in the full day course. My goal is to show you what the software can do and how professional photographers manage their images. Don't worry, you'll have enough information to get started, and if you want to learn more, you can go to Adobe's website and watch many how-to tutorials on specific aspects of the software. Before we get started, I wanted to give you my contact information. My website is stephenhgoldsteindds.com. If you click on the tab that says For Doctors and enter the password 6th molar, you can download some of the PDF papers that I have on camera setup, camera settings, model releases, etc. If you want, you can post a question on Dental XP. I'd be happy to answer it. Or if you would like, you can email me at shgdds@mac.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. If you're asking yourself the following questions, then you need a digital asset management system. Where should I store my images? How do I organize them? What software works best? Can I store my images in my dental software program? How do I back up my images? How do I find them? How can I email a raw file? Digital photography is no longer an option in dentistry. Many papers have been written on camera selection, settings, and photographic techniques. However, very little information is available in dentistry on digital asset management. This course is an overview on managing digital images called assets after they are captured using Adobe's software package Photoshop Lightroom 4. You'll see what needs to take place after images are captured, how to organize, find, edit, and share your photos. All this can be done from a single software package, Adobe Lightroom. Lightroom is divided up into modules listed at the upper right corner of the interface. Typically, a photographer will work from left to right or from importing images to output or sharing images. The library module is where images are imported, downloaded, from the memory card or from folders on your hard drive. Note that Lightroom is cataloging software and does not actually import your images into the software. It leaves the images where you stored them and accesses them from that location. You can delete bad images as well as keyword or label your images with specific words so that it can be easily found in the future. You can also select multiple patient images and move them into specific patient folders, keeping them organized. The Develop module is where images can be edited. This is similar to Photoshop, however, it is 100% non-destructive editing. No matter what changes are made to an image, they are reversible. Here, global changes are made as well as cropping and straightening. From this point, you can decide how your images are to be shared. You can create collections, which are like digital scrapbooks for a particular topic. Here's a collection of images to be used for a waiting room presentation. You can email images, make books, slideshows, or web galleries. You can export your images directly into Facebook, and you can print your images as well. There are so many features in this software, actually way more than I can describe in this short presentation. It also handles video now too. This standalone software package really can do it all. I encourage you all to go to the website, download the trial version, and see if it works for you. Here's the camera setup that I'm currently using. I am a Nikon user. I have two camera bodies, a D90 and I also have a D200. Both have been discontinued by Nikon, but they still work perfectly well. I have the micro 105mm f.2 lens, and I'm using the R1C1 flash system. If you're a Canon user, there's comparable gear that's just as good. Remember, the cameras are just tools, and if you know how to set them up and use them well, they will both, Canon and Nikon, take absolutely wonderful images. My dental technician asked me the other day, since he's a Canon shooter, if I would mind giving him my Nikon camera bag because he was going to leave his camera gear in the car and he wanted to put it in my Nikon bag so nobody would steal it. Ha ha. So The wars are still on, Canon versus Nikon, but remember, they're just tools. I also want you to know that all the images that you'll see in my presentation are shot directly out of the camera. I'm not going into post-production software and modifying a lot of my images. I do crop my images, but pretty much the exposure, the lighting, almost everything that you see is as it was shot in the camera. And the point of this is you really want to get it right in the camera the first time, because it's very time consuming to go back into software and try to make corrections to your images. So really spend the time to get to know your camera, learn the settings, and try to get the images shot correctly right out of the camera. Let's take a few minutes and discuss file formats. Typically, you're going to shoot RAW or JPEG. JPEG files are universal and they are small file sizes, which is a big advantage. The disadvantage of a JPEG file is that it's compressed. And what compression means is that some of the data or the pixels are actually discarded. They are thrown away. This could be an advantage if you want to send an email. You can't send a large file size by email, so a JPEG is a great choice. It might be a disadvantage if you want to print a beautiful image for your waiting room and you don't have enough resolution or enough pixels. So the file format definitely makes a big difference. The RAW file format, as you can see here, has no compression, so you're going to get the highest quality image possible. You're using every pixel on your sensor to capture data. You can also change the processing after you've taken the shots without any data loss, since a lot of the instruction sets, for example, the color tone, sharpening, white balance, are not permanently applied into the RAW file. So if you make a mistake with any of your settings, you can actually recover your file easily in software. This is one of the biggest differences between shooting RAW files and shooting JPEGs. In a JPEG image, all the instruction sets are baked in to the file, which means you can't change them after you took the image. With a RAW file, you're capturing all the data. The instruction sets are editable after you've taken the image. So that's a big difference from shooting JPEG to RAW. You have a lot more flexibility and leeway with RAW files than you do with JPEGs. However, you definitely need to know more about computers, software, and it's going to take more time to manipulate RAW files. RAW files can also get better with age, and what that means is as the software manufacturers come up with better algorithms for processing data, images that you took years ago will actually look better today than they did when they were originally shot. The disadvantages of RAW files are the file sizes are extremely large because they collect a lot more data, and you will need more computer manipulation time to deal with RAW images. Of course, you'll need additional hard drive space as well. So here's the bottom line. Professional photographers shoot with the RAW file format pretty much all the time, and we should do the same. Shoot in the RAW file format or the highest quality JPEG file format available. Everything else is poor quality and should not be used. That's about all I want to say about setting up your camera. Again, if you want to see more details on how I set my camera up, go to my website and download the camera settings sheet, and you'll see specifically more of the details. If you have any questions, please ask me, but that's about all I want to say. Now let's talk about the software, and let's get into downloading images and really the topic of the course, which is digital asset management. Let's look at the dental management software packages and see why they don't work for digital asset management. Number one, they're not meant to be browsers. There is not an easy way to look for your images. You absolutely can't find images unless you search by memory, which is not an efficient way to do this. Another issue is none of them can accept RAW files. So if you're shooting in the RAW file format, which many of you are, you can't store those images in your dental management software packages. And then the last thing is you can't share the images easily. So they're really not set up to do this, and I would recommend never storing any images in your dental software management program, except for possibly an image of the patient's face so that if they call, you'll know who it is. But I don't store any of my images in my dental software package. Even if you could store the images on your dental practice management software package, you don't want to, because eventually it's going to take up a lot of hard drive space and slow your machine down. The software that comes with the digital cameras is limited in features, and again, they don't allow for really precise image organization and editing. Most are browsers, which allow you to look through your images, but they have very limited capabilities. We can also talk about the operating system software. Apple has one, Preview, and Windows has one as well. And they're also okay, but they're limited. You really can't do anything much with your images. For those of you using Photoshop and Bridge, they're wonderful programs, and that's where I started out as well. With the advent of Lightroom, I find I am almost never going into those software packages because you don't need to. Lightroom's non-destructive editing where Photoshop is not. So in dentistry, Lightroom really is a wonderful package, plus the outputting or sharing capabilities of Lightroom far exceeds either one of those programs. So I'd recommend, if you're a Photoshop and Bridge junkie like I was, try Lightroom. I think you're really going to like it better. Unless you need to go into Photoshop and create layers or do sophisticated sharpening, etc., you really will use Lightroom for most of your workflow. For me, there are two huge advantages to digital photography over film. The biggest advantage is your results can be viewed instantly. You can actually see what you're doing, which allows you to make intelligent decisions on changing the settings of your camera. So for example, if you don't like the exposure or the depth of field, those parameters can be changed instantly. Another large advantage is that the camera records the metadata. Metadata is a term which means data about data. It's recording all the settings, it's recording a lot of information, and I'm going to show you how to use that information to your advantage soon. I'd like to jump ahead for a minute and open up an image in Lightroom. Here's an image that I made of a red flower, and on the right side is the metadata panel. And when I blow this up, you can see what is contained in the metadata. So for example, here's the file name. It's in the folder. That's where the image resides. The file size is 3.94 megabytes. The image is a JPEG. And then if you look below, the metadata contains the EXIF data, which are the settings that the camera was set on. And it tells us the pixel dimensions. It'll tell us the exposure was 1/125th of a second at f/29. The flash fired. It tells us the metering mode, etc., etc. Another very important feature of the metadata is the time the image was captured. So here it tells us on 5/8/08 at 2:18 and 54 seconds, the image was taken. Say you have an image that you're unhappy with. The first thing I would recommend doing is to check your metadata. So if you look at the EXIF data, you might see what the problem is. For example, say you have an image you don't like the depth of field. See what your f-stop was set at. Say you have an image that is blurry. Perhaps your shutter speed is not high enough. So anytime you're having any issues, the first thing I would do is check the metadata. The software of choice for me for managing all my digital images, whether it's personal or professional, is Adobe Photoshop Lightroom 4. It's cross-platform cataloging software, which means it works on Apple and PC computers. It's professional software designed for photographers by photographers. There's a moderate learning curve for use in dentistry, so within a couple of weeks to a month, you'll feel very comfortable using this software. There are many books and tutorials available for learning. It is 100% non-destructive editing, which means you cannot harm a pixel if you try. So if you alter an image and you don't like something about your alterations, you can go right back to the original without ever harming a pixel. It works with RAW, JPEG, TIFF, and PSD files, the most common file types, and you can easily output or share images to a multitude of devices such as email, web, slideshow, iPad, and it has the best print module, I think, available today.